This is actually like surprisingly calming for what Times Square actually is. But this isn't rush hour, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like when it gets dark, it gets crazier. Because this is definitely chill, Times Square right now. Like, you can move. I was zigzagging, but I was on a mission, you know? I mean, Midtown during rush hour is pretty harsh. I like how calm it is. I feel like weirdly calm by this video. Chicago. Starbucks. Nazis. Coca-Cola. It's funny because it's like people. This girl I went to college with. She moved to New York maybe a year ago. She just posted this like article that she like self-published online, and the whole thing is like the first line of the article is, I know New Yorkers aren't supposed to love Times Square, but I love Times Square. And I read that first sentence and I was like, bitch, then you're not a New Yorker. Then you're not a New Yorker. You moved here a year ago and you love Times Square. You're not a New Yorker.
Well, I feel like being someone not from New York City, you always have this vision, this idea of what Times Square represents as like kind of a center of the greater downtown majesty of New York City. And yet you have these images like the Empire State Building and Times Square and Rockefeller Center and all these monuments that represent America, I guess, in a mainstream sense. So going there for the first time was definitely like super, it was like a rite of passage. But now as someone who works in that area, I guess it's not as particularly inspiring, because it is like a very much so like a tourist destination, somewhere where people kind of flock to. But also it's isolating if you're kind of alone, because it's something that people experience together, I guess. It's kind of weird how much everyone's willing to stand in such close proximity with each other in such a small space. I feel like every space has its transformation, and Times Square's moment right now is rooted in tourism and shopping and food and Broadway, but that's going to bound to change at some point too. At one point it was just natural earth, so I guess we'll see.
If you were to say that Times Square isn't New York, then you could easily make an argument that lots of other areas of New York also aren't New York. Because, like, Times Square isn't New York because it's full of people who aren't from there. So is Williamsburg. Like, everywhere is different, and that's what makes New York great. My roommate has a friend who lived with the mice from Times Square. He was like pretty convinced. He saw the costumes. But all these people that are dressed up as cartoons, like they don't live in Times Square, I'm sure, but they probably live in like New Jersey or Brooklyn, or probably like just on the outskirts of shit. And they come in and they just dress up, and they probably see so much shit every day. But it's funny, like, Times Square is literally just, like, the money pit of fucking New York City. Because, like, if Times Square didn't exist, then, like, Lower Manhattan, Harlem wouldn't exist. Brooklyn wouldn't exist. New Jersey wouldn't be so populated. Like, people are coming here and spending all their money. And then, like, all these fucking high-rises have, like, tons and tons of corporations and businesses, people sitting in chairs getting paid $1 billion to, like, crunch numbers and make people buy more shit. And then everyone comes and takes pictures of it. But it's like fun. Like, I don't want to be such a dick about Times Square. Like, it's also like sometimes I do get out of work and I'm like, I'm in New York City and like it's so like glamorous and like I'm running around and like I'm just free.
So we've been in quarantine for, man, I'm losing track of time, like 34 weeks, somewhere in between there. I know it hasn't been that long, but it certainly feels like a lot of time's gone by. But I don't know, life's got all right. I mean, I can't complain too much. Just to be grateful to be with everyone and healthy, and still have the luxuries like running through the park and getting all the sorts of ingredients one needs and toast in the morning. So like, I feel like we have everything we need. It's just very surreal to live in a place which is so interconnected, and to see those chains kind of just broken and everyone kind of frozen in their own space and habitual environments is really eerie. I mean, I think it'll go back to the same way it is. You know, there might be people wearing face masks more, you know, a little distance in between themselves, but I think people are going to keep flocking there. And once the Broadway shows are back open, the restaurants are back open, that's all going to keep kind of moving forward. I think it would take something like a lot of crime or a major natural disaster to really shut it down. But the virus, I don't think so. Maybe someday it'll be like a ghetto post-apocalyptic electronics market. Kind of like one of the Star Wars planets with all traders. But it's really profound to see an area that like is so full of life 24/7 emptied. But at the same time, like that's not as significant as just like the lack of. I feel like the part of the architecture of those places is the bodies that's within them. So when it's stripped, that's fundamentally like a very different looking place. And that's why it's not as shocking as it is just like strange to see.
I was thinking about this yesterday. I like got home from a run and I could go an entire evening in New York, normal New York, without getting a text. And maybe I'd be a little disappointed, but I'd be like, like that kind of makes sense. Whereas here, I just like, no, I could not go an entire day without like talking to a billion people, because there are other extroverts in this world who are also like, I need some kind of contact and like, let's talk and this and that. I mean, and we still like, I still get to hang out. I mean, like I would love to just like fucking throw my body against other people and just like, oh mosh. Or like, even when you were talking earlier about when I was talking about Times Square, and I think about how my least favorite thing about Times Square is just like, you don't really have personal space. You have to like zigzag through. I would love to like zigzag through and not be angry. I feel like if I begin that situation again, I'll think about it maybe a little bit differently for at least a few weeks before it goes back to like the typical kind of like annoyance that it usually is. But when I think about the type of New York that I want to be in right now, I don't think about Times Square because it's not even on my radar. It's like a mist, like it's like, it like doesn't exist for me, really.
I saw Mo the week before quarantine happened. We ran into each other in Bryant Park, and he just walked by, and we hugged as if we weren't like not supposed to be like hugging people because it was like coronavirus. We like hugged. I shook that girl's hand, like whatever. It was fun. I was like, oh my god, I like am part of the city now. I'm running into my friends. I still don't want to go to Times Square. Like, I still don't want to be like on a Friday night in Times Square. You know, I feel like hanging out with like just like my pals in the park. Even when we were in Bryant Park, like the week before, and just being able to like be in an open space where like anyone's invited. Like, you don't have to like worry about having people in your house, or like if the restaurant is gonna have enough seats for you all or whatever. You're just like sitting out in a free space. I miss that the most. Like, I think about like the one guy who every time I got out the subway and crossed over, he was like standing on the other side of the street handing out those like city bus, the double-decker bus. And like, I feel like on my first day, he like deadass must have like tried to hand me one, but I guess at a certain point he would probably realize that like, oh, this bitch isn't gonna like go do a double-deck tour. She's like going to work. But then like, I can't even imagine what he's doing now, you know? I'm sure he saw Times Square die, which is really sad.